You get a monoprice and Simplify 3D. I got those two things, and that, like, I held off because $150 is a lot to pay for slicing software.
What's up, guys? It's Cody. So for this week's video, I'm going to be uploading a podcast I did a month ago with Brady Hoover Designs on Instagram. Neither one of us have done a podcast or interview type thing like this before. So we're going to see how this goes. I may be just typing the questions on the screen and he'll respond to them. But we'll see.
I will turn the computer. Monoprice Select Mini. Now let me find the piece I'm missing. And so I'm going to start. I'm just going to load the filament and then introduce myself. Okay. And then we can start.
Do you want to go and introduce yourself to everybody?
Okay, yeah. I am Maxwell Brady Hoover, and I run a company, Brady Hoover Designs, and our shorthand is BHD 3D. I work on things like reverse engineering 3D printers until the point that I have released my own 3D printer model that has 5 pre-orders and was announced yesterday on this live stream. So thank you, everybody. This is just a beta run just to see how it runs and selling to people I know so I can give them good customer service. Other than that, I've been doing a lighting job for a bar, so I'm doing some electronics and NeoPixels. And mainly all this comes down to is working on project management. Being able to tackle all of these problems and still be able to complete a printer that you're building. And for example, you've built a Prusa over weeks and weeks and weeks, but it's project management. You were like, I'm going to do this day, and then I'm going to do this day, and then I'm going to do this day. And now I have a product. All right, granted, you're making a kit, and I'm making my own kit, but it's all the same.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we can start with your printer that you're building.
It's been 18 months in progress. I mean, that I've wanted to make a DIY printer. Like, before I owned a printer, it's almost my 1-year anniversary of having a printer. And I now have a company that's valued at $30,000. Based on the number of printers I bought, the money I put into it, I recently officially purchased SolidWorks, and that's a $7,000 CAD program. So I'm in this for life now. I have that license forever. I can always do that SolidWorks contract design work. But this is entirely for 3D printing. I can use rendering tools to that's how I made my logo for my website, or for everything. I 3D printed a logo, but I rendered it before I 3D printed it. And I live streamed a render yesterday for everyone who tuned in. They got to see how I do rendering in SolidWorks. So I'm a big SolidWorks user. In fact, I'm making the announcement just now on your YouTube and on this live stream that I'm going to SolidWorks World 2017 or 2018. Now, I went to SolidWorks World 2017 as a student with my drafting program, and I was vice president of the engineering club and very active, and they sent me down to LA to go to SolidWorks World. Now, I'm not certain that this is how it's going to happen, but the goal is to go operate a booth with Protopasta at the convention and be on the trade show floor. And I proposed the idea that if I go down to a convention with a big old backpack full of Protopasta carbon fiber, and I hand it to every single printer company, Ultimaker, Axiom, etc. I mean, like, the list is endless. MakerBot, they could all be using carbon fiber on the trade show. That turns the entirety of SolidWorks World into an advertisement for Protopasta, the entire trade show floor. So I proposed that to them, and they were like, what?
Are you going to have your printer at SolidWorks, or?
That depends. I mean, I'm going to go no matter what. Mm-hmm. I mean, my business is to the point where I can afford a $700 convention fee. That would be me just like attending. So I would like to, and this is future discussions, I might be helping them with their booth, but they'd get the booth and I'd go as just like a user and help out at the booth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you go as a user, you get to take SolidWorks courses, and that's one of the reasons why I'm so good at what I do with SolidWorks. I took like down the line 3 days of classes on how to use SolidWorks for 3D printing or scanning. So like, it's been a huge like boost in me. In fact, I got back from SolidWorks World, and the day afterwards, I arranged my internship with Protopasta. They contacted me about the possibility. So SolidWorks World was probably the biggest boost to my business that has ever happened, because it built a relationship with companies. It allowed me to really understand what, like, all of these different 3D printers. I have videos of every single one that was there operating. So, I mean, just to see that variety is an amazing thing to get to do. Like, I wish I could go to a maker fair or something, but I love SolidWorks so much that I think that's the convention for me.
Okay.
So I am currently printing with my Monoprice a bracket for my 3D printer, my DIY 3D printer. It is called the BHD 3D Apollo. I have chosen to name all my printers after Greek mythology, just because Revision 8 doesn't sound so good.
Yeah. So what's...
It was Revision 8, Return of the Jedi, but I don't know the next title, so I had to stop there. But
what's gonna make
now it's full force. I took an Annette A8 and made the Prusa frame bracket style. Now what I'm working on is an aluminum extrusion frame, which will be very simple. I've purchased the equipment in order to assemble it. And I already have all the aluminum sitting on. You have cut out a little bit.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. So, I have the aluminum extrusion ready to build a frame. I am currently working on SolidWorks because all of my printer design up till now has been in student version. You can't legally sell an item designed in student version. For beta testing, that's fine. But in order to do the final production, I'm going to redesign it all. I'm going to, instead of just finding the right clearances for a plastic part, I'm going to drill an 8mm hole for an 8mm rod into my part. I'm going to make it like 8mm, but I'm going to drill it to make sure it's perfect, because printing's never flawless. That's the beauty of all my printers are going to be made out of protopasta materials, various protopasta materials, because of the heat resistance and the high strength. HTPLA is probably my favorite filament, and I hate printing with anything other than PLA and I enjoy PETG. I'll make a PETG version. But because PLA, if you look at my printing, I get electricity from a dam on the Columbia River, which is as green of energy as I can get without buying a solar panel. I drive to pick up the filament. The filament is made from canola oil. I drive 10 minutes to go get it. It's on a cardboard spool that's recyclable. So the only non-organic component in 3D printing for me is pigments or chemicals that might make it heat treatable, but I don't know the science behind. I'm not a material scientist, but I run a very green business, and that's awesome.
Have you thought about recycling the filament?
What?
All right, recycling the filament,
that'll be a future project. I mean, I have so much on my plate.
Yeah.
The real goal right now is that I want to go to making filament, and then I want to make a pelleter.
Okay.
It needs to take prints, chop them up, and then push it out, basically my extruder machine, but it'll have a chopper that chops at a rate that makes pellets.
Okay.
So it's a long ways down the road, maybe a year and a half. I'll have that project done. Probably a year, and I'll have a beta version at least. It's a project I'm excited about, but I have 5 pre-orders to fill, and my date that I'm going to ship those out in is November.
Okay.
That's how close I am to being done with my printer.
So, what's like the unique thing about your printer? Is it?
Well, it's very similar to the Prusa, but it's going to have an all aluminum frame. It doesn't need the calibration, which is such a pain in the ass. I finally, after owning my Prusa and using it for a month, got the message, you have perfectly calibrated your printer. Congratulations. Luckily, it's a printer that works without being perfectly calibrated. It's like, we'll make up for it. But that's unnecessary if you just have a sturdy frame with parallel bars that hold your bed straight. And my printer is going to come pre-assembled. It's not going to be a Prusa kit. My plan for building them is I'm going to build the 3D printer, and it's going to have the Z removes, lays flat, goes in a box, and I ship it to you. And when you get it, you put it on, plug things in, and print.
Okay.
It might be plugged in and just laid down. I mean, I'm not sure how packaging is going to work yet, but it's going to be very simple. And it's going to be a kit. It's not going to be a kit. It's going to be some assembly required, which and I'm going to build it, print all the parts for my next 3D printer on it, and then ship it away, and then do that with the next printer, build it, print all the parts for the next printer. And then I just have one assembly line where at the end there's the printer making the parts to supply the beginning of the assembly line.
Yeah.
The nice thing about SolidWorks and aluminum extrusion is I can adjust it to whatever rods I have available at the time. So I'm going to have a variety of different sized printers. It's a little awkward. One of them I'm going to have a 200 by 300, but for vertical, I'm going to have like a 600 millimeter height on my printer.
Okay.
I'm going to have 2 versions. Well, I'm going to have an extended version because that's just a longer aluminum extrusion and longer rods. And like with the Prusa, instead of having that square, it's a vertical rod with a bar across the top.
Yeah.
And probably 2 sets so it won't be able to rock. Especially if you make it really tall, it'll want to rock. I have open builds V-slot coming. So when it officially comes, it's not going to use linear rods. It's going to use wheels that go onto the sides of the extrusion and move up and down along. I'm sure you've seen something similar.
Yeah.
But that's how it's going to run. Instead of having the rods and just being a Prusa clone, it's going to be an open builds Prusa style.
Okay.
And I'm sure all the followers that come and see my building of it, because I'm doing it entirely. It's not an open source project because it's something I'm selling, but I'm showing you how I did it. I live streamed how I put my controller together. It's no secret how I built my printer. And I think that's one of the things that's missing from a lot of companies is they don't tell you like why they do what they do.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I have such a variety of printers is I really enjoy knowing why it's made the way it is. Like I took the Prusa, the biggest reason I bought the Prusa was so I knew what to do about my Prusa style. And my Prusa beats theirs because it's just going to auto level and work every time. There is no calibration, just like set it up and print. There is some calibration in setting the Z offset, but big whoop. I'm actually going to have an assembly guide and first print instructions written up for release. So it's not just here's a printer. And this is what I have a degree in, is the design to do this.
Yeah.
So that's my printer. That's Apollo.
So will you be able to use any software with it, like Astroprint
Yeah,
or like Cure?
it's custom firmware with a touchscreen and built-in Wi-Fi
Okay.
and a camera, hopefully in the end. I'm going all out on the controller software for this. I'm just having a blast with the coding of it.
Yeah.
In fact, next quarter in school, I'm going to be taking a machining class as well as a solid day of programming, like full-time programming student next quarter.
Okay.
And I'm going to not even go towards a programming degree. This year of school is just to build skills. I'm taking classes that help my business.
Mm-hmm.
I wake up every morning and at 8 o'clock I do Business 101. And then at 9 o'clock I set up a booth. Whatever day I want. And today I made $50 within an hour selling 3D printed items. And not necessarily selling. I accepted donations and then gave away some things that I don't necessarily have rights to. Things like a benchy. If you want to donate money to my business, I will give you a benchy. I make benchies all the time, and so does everybody. That's probably the first print everybody makes on their first printer. Not necessarily, but I mean, I decided at one point, if I have a good benchy, I'm going to keep it. I started just filling a jar with them, and now I just put them on display. I mean, because every filament that I have a showcase of the colors that I have in my cabinet. I want a shelf for them. I've recently, I'm not sure you might have seen, I have a shelf where I keep it's this last year's favorite prints. And I started printing, this is almost the anniversary of my first 3D printer. So, and now I have 12 and building my own. But before I bought my first 3D printer, I had access to them. I have been 3D printing for 8 years now.
Okay.
There was one in my high school. And I even learned SolidWorks in my high school. Granted, there were years without using it, but I mean, it's like riding a bicycle. I mean, I walked into a CAD program like, when do I start with SolidWorks and where's the 3D printer? So, and that was 2 years ago. So a year of just learning how to draft and design, and then a year of learning to print, and then, or 6 months of learning to print, and then 6 months of businessmanship, business owning, manufacturing. And I'm expanding. My big goal is to move more than 3D printing. I'm building up a makerspace right now. I might become the manager. If nothing else, I'll be maintenance guy, because I can fix 3D printers and there's no one in charge of it and there are no members. And it's the only makerspace in in Vancouver, Washington. So I have already collected thousands in filament, and now I'm collecting monetary donations, and will make some myself when I have money to donate. And this is just all for the good of allowing people to do 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's $100 a month with a $200 down payment. Imagine getting to use a laser cutter and a Formlabs and Ultimaker 2 Extended for $100 a month. I mean, if you're really interested in making stuff, that's the place to do it. And I'm going to make sure that the equipment's there and working. As well as, if they pay me, I'll teach classes on how to 3D print.
Okay.
Take things from Thingiverse and slice it in Cura. And Cura works great with an Ultimaker. I mean, they're called Ultimaker makes Cura.
Do you think Cura is better than Astroprint, or what's your favorite software to use?
I use Simplify 3D and SanDisk cards. I want to set up Octoprint, which is a Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
I could. I got a question. How do I make money? I make money out of designing machines and selling 3D printed items. I mean, I invent things that I think people would sell. It began with, I live in Washington, so that's a legal marijuana state. So it began with pot containers that were spinners, because spinners were a fad and no one would buy a spinner. But people would buy a spinner if it had a place to put pot in it. So I've made about $5,000 off of those, and they take $1 to make, and I make $9 profit off of every one I sold. So it bought me 4 mono prices, and that started my business. And from there, I have my products in 9 stores in 5 states. So that's how you make money out of it. I literally I go to people and I say, you want to carry my product. That's how you make money out of it. First, you make the thing, you know people want it, and then you go tell someone you want this. That's how you sell something. That's how I have 5 pre-orders. I have rights to every component in my printer, and now I get to sell it because I invented something. So now then I approach my friends who are professional 3D printers and say, are you interested in no money down pre-order confirmation for a future printer? I mean, I don't have the frame is why I'm not going to take pre-order money. Until I have a beta running in my house, I won't take any money, but I have 5 guaranteed pre-orders once it works and when it works. And that's not a question anymore. When my live video yesterday was doing what I needed to do to get it to work. That was like the final step I needed. Now I have another motherboard sitting in a box right there. Pointing. Right there is another motherboard for another Annette. So I'm going to be printing. That's this weekend's. Holy crap! It's the weekend. That's this weekend's project. So I'm going to be assembling these printers.
Okay.
I'm also going to be kind of taking a little bit of a break because I work all day. And best and easy software. There's a question. Is Simplify 3D. I was way holding back on that, on getting Simplify 3D. But by the time I bought Simplify 3D, I have been getting perfect prints without having to do calibration, without having to like check settings and retraction. And I just say it's this printer and I change the volume and hit go and it gives me a perfect print every time. So it's changed my life in 3D printing. It's so simple. I'm hoping to set up Octoprint. I might set up AstroPrint in my makerspace. But that's all depending on how much money we get and how much I get paid to help out with the makerspace. I'm not going to set up AstroPrint for free. I will just, at the very least, I'll do maintenance for free access to the machines. I mean, I'm giving them thousands of dollars, maintenance for a paycheck, but like salary just to make sure that and recruitment because I'm at a college. Every time I run my booth, I could have their little pamphlet out and say, oh, for $100, you could 3D print like I do. And I mean, that's what they don't have anyone doing. So I get to help improve the making of Vancouver. We actually have a sister makerspace in Tennessee, and they're currently raising funds for us. Because it's a huge makerspace in Tennessee, but there's no makerspace. There's a decent one in Portland, but there's not one in Vancouver, and we're just across the river from each other. So I could go down to Portland, or I could pioneer one. I think that's awesome. Maybe they'll give me a budget to purchase some printers. Maybe they'll purchase my Apollo because they need a 1.75 millimeter machine. They only have the Ultimaker 2 extended. So that takes 3 millimeter. So that's why I worked so hard to get filament donated, is because who has 3 millimeter filament? Nobody. Like, 3 millimeter is not the medium right now. It's used in very rare cases. So I have like 15 kilograms of 3 millimeter filament to donate to them. Some not even released yet. From Protopasta. God, I love Protopasta. But yeah, that's the makerspace. And that's AstroPrint and Raspberry Pi and Octoprint. So, I mean, I'm interested, but with all the work I do, it's easier to just do the same thing for every printer and I was talking to at 3D Brooklyn about how they run only MakerBot Replicator 2, the same printer, and they have a fleet of them. And the purpose for that is that they don't want to have to change slicing settings for every printer that they walk up to. Like right now, I have a Prusa, and I have my printer, and I have the Monoprice, and I have all of the above. So every time I do that, it's different slicing settings. Now, granted, I'm really good at slicing. I mean, I've spent a year trying to perfect it.
Can you not make profiles for each one?
No, I make profiles, but you still have to change the build volume in G-code. It's pretty difficult. It doesn't have a way to manage multiple printers, but it has a way of managing multiple print like settings.
Yeah.
So all I do is I have to like add in mesh bed leveling to a printer so it can do auto leveling, and then it's fine. But I can install it on 2 computers, so I can have one computer slice for, like, my main desktop can be sliced. Same with SolidWorks, can be on 2 computers. My desktop will be for slicing for my home printers, my homemade printers. And this computer will be slicing for non-auto leveling printers. The real problem is when you have to change G-code every time. And I'm getting very familiar with G-code in firmwares. Obviously, or else I wouldn't be able to make my printers run. But I'm staring at code or a 3D printer or SolidWorks probably 12 hours to 16 hours a day for, probably a good 3 weeks straight. So I'm taking this weekend off.
Okay. So
my weekend off is still, I'm going to like have fun all day, and then like in the afternoon do some assembly, and then because once printers are calibrated, it's hit and go. I'm making 3D printers as we speak. That's the beauty of 3D printing and RepRap. Repeatable, rapid prototyping is I'm printing printers. 3D printers printing 3D printers. Like, I saw someone say that once, and just awesome. That's going to be my company logo.
All right, so as we're
Company motto.
wrapping this up, is there anything else you want to talk about, or is there any more questions?
So there's, I suggest you get Simplify 3D and just slow, or Cura, and just slow the speed down to where it's just crawling, because you'll get really nice prints. As an ex-owner of a Mod T by New Matter, I really understand how to get a decent print. Actually, I'll be right back. I'm going to grab the best print I made on one. So I'll show the live stream. It's a Sith Lord statue from Thingiverse, printed in just black PLA that came with the printer. And like, that is pretty quality. And the Mod T, it auto levels, it's cheap, it's just a hit go and it prints, you know?
Yeah.
But like, the detail on this is pretty impressive for a $270 printer when it goes on sale. I mean, it's $300 full price and it goes on sale all the time. And they just posted, stay tuned, something new's coming. And Monoprice is having me, actually, here's something about Monoprice, is I just did, Rajiv, who wants to see the Sith Lord? I designed a bushing for the Monoprice and ordered it in 3D printed metal and printed it in HTPLA and heat treated it so it wouldn't melt in the extruder. And what it does is it stops jams. And I called customer support because that's how do you get in touch with Monoprice. And it took about 2 hours. I told the customer support guy, okay, I designed a part. It fixes this problem. Can you direct me towards someone? Direct me higher up, and start moving me up the ladder until I think I'm going to be beta testing Monoprices as for reviews. Or reviewing Monoprices, which is something I've wanted to get into, and Monoprices are cheap to do that with.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just do a review of the Monoprice I own, and in exchange, I want a Monoprice. But I am talking about selling them the license to the bushing I designed, because they really messed up not doing that.
Yeah.
I mean, my printer prints twice as fast in twice as much quality because I added one small little piece that they overlooked. I bought 4 Monoprices and realized that they were all jamming in the same spot every time. So rather than fixing the jam, I'm like, well, why not try to replace part that causes the jam? I mean, I have there's always options. Here's a project. It has a V6 on it. I'll show you guys. It says a V6 on it, and a part just fell off. No, it was just sitting there. But just adding that one bushing, and now I'm printing faster. I beat the V6 with a little metal bushing. Just because I don't have to design a mount for a V6. Unless I can machine one, it's not worth 3D printing a mount for hot end.
Yeah.
That's just never a good idea. Unless you have protopasta heat treatable filament. And that's the best thing to use if you're designing an extruder. So I upgraded Monoprice. I'm in talks with them. I want to beta test their printer, and I'm going to talk to New Matter about their upcoming printer and see if I can do a review on it. Because I've talked to them since I bought a Mod T very early on in their life.
Yeah.
We bought them about similar times, but it was a very early version of the Monoprice. I paid $400 for it.
Yeah, I think I got my Mod T, one of the first ones that came out.
Yeah, I got it in November. I don't know when it came out, but it was heavily advertised at the time, so it was pretty new.
Mm-hmm.
But it's always been heavily advertised. It is a good printer for starting out.
All right, so I'm going to have to wrap
But I now suggest the Monoprice. It's bigger.
All right, so I'm going to have to get ready to go. So is there anything else?
So this is the print I started. I'm using iridescent ice protopasta filament, making a clear set of brackets for my next printer. Every printer is going to be in a different version of, and I'll show the live streamers. Every version is going to be different filament, but it's all going to be HTPLA. And if you specifically want carbon fiber, that's fine. But if you just want a protopasta and you don't care what color it is, I'm going to have a variety. I'm testing out which is the best one, which looks coolest. Let you pick. I don't know. But there's a lot of potential with that. So, yeah. Thank you guys, everyone who tuned in here on the live stream. And thank you, Cody, for interviewing me.
Yep.
If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If it's first, please subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.